Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me for this session of Hospicare's weekly series entitled Tools for Connection and Wellness. My name is Edie Reagan and I serve as Coordinator of Spiritual Care at Hospicare. As we've been navigating through these last 7 weeks, it's occurred to me that in some ways what we are experiencing is what many people experience when they're facing the end of their life. Often when people come on to hospice services, they speak about how difficult it feels to be walking into something which is completely unknown. I remember one man declaring to me, "I like maps. I'm used to be able to see where I'm going, and there's no map for this." Nowadays, we too are living without a map. We too are confronting a world that's strangely unfamiliar to us. And sometimes this can make us feel fearful, anxious, and very vulnerable. I've recently learned a new phrase. It's loss of the assumptive world. And I think that phrase aptly describes our experience at this time. Our taken for granted daily routines and the stability that they provided are now turned upside down. If we're not essential workers, we're not going into the office every day. Our kids are no longer going to school or daycare. Many of us are not able to visit our parents or grandparents. Some of us may have lost our jobs and our economic security. And some may have even lost loved ones during this time. The illusion of security and predictability that gives us the gumption to get out of bed every morning has suddenly been blown away and left us feeling cast out at sea on our own. Ironically, this loss of the assumptive world may be a great gift to us, in that it pushes us to ask ourselves, what is still there for me? What can I depend upon and draw strength from when everything else has fallen away? These questions call to my mind a poem about a thread that runs through our lives, a thread that can guide us if we hold on to it. The poem is called "The Way It Is" by William Stafford. He writes, "There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you cannot get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread." His words make me wonder, what is this thread for us? What can keep us tethered and steady during these times of shifting sand beneath our feet? I'd like to suggest that this thread could be our spirituality. And by the term spirituality, I mean connection, our sense of connection with our own self, with others, with creation or nature, and with that which we may call our higher power or the universe or God. I'd like to toss out some ideas about ways that we might lean into these aspects of our spirituality during these very challenging days. If something resonates with you, that's great. If it doesn't, just let it go. So connecting deeply with ourselves is an important part of the spiritual life. Many people are urging us today to take breaks throughout our ordinary days to just be mindful of our breath as it moves into our lungs and abdomen and moves out. It may also be helpful to just place our hand on our hearts and feel our heart beating. You know, our breath and our heartbeat are always there, and taking time just to be aware of them can bring us a great sense of calm and stability. Focusing on the experience of our five senses can also help us to attune to ourselves. Feeling the cold spray of a waterfall on our face, drinking in the intoxicating fragrance of spring hyacinths or the lilacs that'll be blooming soon, delighting in the songs of birds in the morning or those peepers at night, savoring a freshly baked cookie or a glass of wine, watching sailboats bobbing on Cayuga Lake, or gazing upon the beautiful faces of our children and grandchildren. These are all ways to nurture our inner spiritual life. Connecting with others is an element of our spirituality that may be challenged right now because of the physical distancing requirements. Thankfully, technologies such as FaceTime and Zoom offer many opportunities for some of us to stay in connection, to communicate, and to see those people who are important in our lives. By the way, our pets also need to be included in our circle of special others. During this time of physical distancing from people, connections with our canine and feline friends can be a source of great comfort and companionship for us, especially for those who are living alone right now. This experience of connection with others can extend beyond this time and reach into the past. Family stories of tenacity and resilience hold particular power for us today. We may recall a grandfather who weathered the trauma of combat during World War II, or an aunt who persevered to live a very full life, even with a chronic illness or physical disability. I often look back upon my maternal grandmother, who was left to raise 4 young children on her own during the Great Depression. And we don't need to be related to somebody to draw strength from their story. Icons of love and courage like Harriet Tubman and Anne Frank are also there for us, offering inspiration and encouragement right here and right now. Our spiritual connection with nature is mentioned time and time again by hospice patients that I've spoken with throughout the years. Many people have simply told me, nature is my church. Our earth is unabashedly generous with us, offering solace whenever we turn to it. The poet and environmentalist Wendell Berry beautifully expresses this sentiment in his acclaimed poem, The Peace of Wild Things. He writes, "When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free." Contemplation is sometimes called a long, loving look, offering our full attention to the tiniest of creatures that cross our path, noticing the ephemeral beauty of our sunrises and sunsets, looking up at the moon and the stars in the night sky, like the bright full moon that was there for us last night. All may put us in touch with something awesome and enduring, something more. There's a tall oak tree in my front yard that's got to be over 200 years old. Sometimes I go out and I touch its bark and look up into its branches and think about all that it has survived throughout the decades. And that connection somehow offers me strength today. The gorges and the waterfalls were here long before this pandemic and will be here long after. During these unsure times, nature powerfully reminds us that life does go on. Our relationship to that which we may call our higher power or the universal life force or God may also anchor us as we venture into the unknown. Some nurture this connection through adopting a daily spiritual practice, like taking just a bit of quiet time each morning to greet the new day. The Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh offers us this beautiful morning prayer. He writes, "Waking up this morning, I see the blue sky. I join my hands in thanks for the many wonders of life, for having 24 brand new hours before me." A great many hospice patients that I've spoken with tell me that they spend time praying each night after they go to bed, expressing thanks for the gifts of the day or holding up loved ones that they're carrying with them in their hearts. It reminds me of that, I think, very touching scene in the recent movie about Mr. Rogers starring Tom Hanks, in which we see him kneeling by the side of his bed at night, and he's holding this list, long list of names of people that he's promised to pray for. And there are certain powerful prayers that people turn to again and again over the years as a kind of spiritual lifetime during the most troubling of times. I think here of Reinhold Niebuhr's Serenity Prayer, which begins with the heartfelt plea, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, and the courage to change the things that I can. And of course, there's the 23rd Psalm that people turn to again and again with its calm insistence that God, our shepherd, is always with us. There are no maps for us to follow as we navigate this unknown terrain before us, but there are connections available to steady and support us as we go. While we move through these uncertain times, may each of us find our thread, whatever that may be, and trusting that while we hold on to it, we cannot get lost. Thanks for being here, and please join us again Friday at 10 a.m. for our 5-minute breath break.